In the heart of a bustling city, where skyscrapers cast shadows over busy streets and the hum of commerce never seemed to stop, there existed a restaurant that had seen better days. Its windows were smudged, its floors slightly warped from years of use. And yet inside, it pulsed with the life of those who refused to let it fade into obscurity. Among its staff was a man named Daniel, a dishwasher who spent his days scrubbing plates, silverware, and glasses until they shone under the dim fluorescent lights. Daniel was not remarkable in the conventional sense. He had no college degree, no flashy credentials, and no extensive resume. What he had was an acute attention to detail and an unyielding curiosity. Every plate he cleaned, every utensil he polished, every corner he scrubbed was observed with an intensity that few noticed, but that would soon change everything. It was a Thursday morning when the ripple began, a ripple that would soon turn into a wave. The restaurant received a call from a man named Richard, the chief operations officer of a multinational corporation known for its high-stakes business ventures and billion-dollar valuations. The company was on the brink of a colossal collapse, and they were desperate. Their internal systems had failed, a critical deal had gone wrong, and the board of directors was panicking. Richard explained the situation to the restaurant manager, a man named Greg, who listened with mounting concern. The company needed someone meticulous, someone who could spot a small anomaly before it became a catastrophic failure. And somehow, by an inexplicable twist of fate, they had been directed to Daniel. Greg, skeptical but desperate, called Daniel into the office. The dishwasher stood there, sleeves rolled up, hands still damp from the morning's dishes, his expression blank but attentive. "Daniel," Greg began, "I know this sounds strange, but this is important. They need someone with your skills. Can you do this?" Daniel didn't fully understand what he was being asked, but there was a quiet confidence in his eyes. He nodded. "I'll try." That night, Daniel found himself in a room that looked more like a war room than anything else. Screens lined the walls, showing live feeds of financial transactions, boardroom meetings, and endless streams of data. Analysts typed furiously, phones rang off the hook, and tension crackled like static in the air. Daniel was handed a laptop and a stack of reports. It wasn't glamorous work. In fact, it was exhausting. But as he began to go through the numbers, something clicked. Daniel noticed an anomaly that no one else had seen. A minor discrepancy in one of the companies overseas. Transactions seemed inconsequential at first glance, but he dug deeper. Tracing the line item through months of data, through invoices and shipping manifests, he discovered a pattern, a subtle manipulation that, if left unchecked, would have triggered a chain reaction leading to the company's bankruptcy. He stood up, took a deep breath, and approached Richard, who barely glanced at him before brushing him off. "We have experts handling this," Richard said, his tone sharp, almost dismissive. But Daniel insisted. "I've traced this discrepancy. If we don't act now, the company will lose billions within weeks." Richard's eyes narrowed. He had seen many analysts over the years, some brilliant, some incompetent, and few who dared to speak up. Daniel's certainty, despite his unassuming appearance, sparked a flicker of curiosity. Reluctantly, Richard allowed Daniel to present his findings. For the next hour, Daniel explained the anomaly using simple language and clear visuals. He broke down complex transactions into digestible segments, highlighting exactly where the manipulation had occurred and how it could be corrected. The room was silent except for his voice, which grew steadier with every sentence. When he finished, there was a pause. The room felt heavy with the weight of realization. The executives exchanged glances, their faces reflecting shock and disbelief. No one had noticed this error until now. Daniel had essentially identified a flaw that could have gone unnoticed until it was too late. Richard finally spoke. "If what "You're saying is true? We could have lost everything?" Daniel nodded. "Yes, but we can fix it, if we act immediately." The following days were a whirlwind. The company implemented Daniel's recommendations, making precise adjustments to their financial strategies, correcting errors in contracts, and renegotiating key deals. The pressure was immense, but Daniel's calm, analytical approach guided the executives through the storm. Word of his contribution began to spread. At first, it was hushed whispers in boardrooms. "Who is this guy? How did a dishwasher even notice this?" But soon, his role became the talk of the company. Daniel didn't seek recognition. He continued his work quietly, moving through data, sheets and reports with the same focus he had once applied to dishes and silverware. The turnaround was remarkable. Within weeks, the company stabilized. Investors regained confidence, and the stock began to climb. Deals that once seemed doomed were salvaged. Employees who had feared layoffs were reassured. The once imminent collapse had been averted, and the company stood stronger than before. Daniel's story didn't end there. The company offered him a position, an official role where his keen eye for detail and analytical skills could be applied on a larger scale. But Daniel declined. He preferred the simplicity of his life, the quiet satisfaction of knowing he had made a difference without seeking fame or fortune. Yet the world took notice. News outlets reported on the dishwasher who saved a billion-dollar company, painting him as a symbol of hidden talent, resilience, and the importance of humility. Interviews, features, and documentaries followed. People marveled at the irony. A man who spent his days cleaning dishes had saved the livelihoods of thousands and prevented a financial disaster of unimaginable scale. But for Daniel, the lesson was always clear. Greatness does not always come with a title, a suit, or a corner office. It comes from observation, persistence, and the willingness to act when no one else does. In the quiet hours, when the restaurant was empty and the dishes piled high, Daniel would reflect on the fact that even the smallest actions could ripple into monumental consequences. He became an inspiration for many, not because he sought recognition, but because he demonstrated the extraordinary impact one ordinary person can have. Business schools began teaching case studies about his intervention. Corporate leaders cited his methods as examples of meticulous attention to detail. And yet, Daniel remained humble, walking through life with the quiet confidence of someone who had learned the profound truth that the world often overlooks those who work in silence. People began to ask him, "Daniel, what was it that made you notice the discrepancy when so many experts missed it?" He would smile, shrugging slightly, and say, "I just pay attention." It was that simple. Paying attention, caring about the details, refusing to ignore the signs, that was his secret. In a world obsessed with titles, fame, and prestige, Daniel reminded everyone that true impact often comes from the most unexpected places. The restaurant continued to hum with life, the clatter of dishes providing a rhythm to Daniel's thoughts. And though the company he saved thrived, Daniel knew that what mattered most was not the accolades or the headlines. It was the quiet knowledge that his actions had made a difference, that a potential disaster had been averted, and that the value of observation, courage, and integrity could never be underestimated. Years later, when he walked past the headquarters of the corporation, now a thriving symbol of resilience and smart management, Daniel would pause. He remembered the chaos, the fear, and the moments of doubt, and he smiled, knowing that even a dishwasher, armed with curiosity and attention to detail, could change the course of history. The story of Daniel spread beyond the corporate world. It became a legend in its own right, a tale shared in classrooms, offices, and homes. People began to realize that heroism doesn't always wear a cape. Sometimes it wears an apron, stands behind a sink, and quietly observes the world, waiting for the right moment to act. Daniel's journey was a testament to the power of humility, diligence, and courage. It was proof that no matter how ordinary someone may seem, their actions can create extraordinary results. And it served as a reminder that in a world driven by status, wealth, and hierarchy, it is often the unnoticed, the overlooked, and the underestimated who hold the key to saving everything. As the sun set over the city, casting long shadows over streets and skyscrapers, Daniel wiped his hands on a towel and looked at the rows of sparkling dishes. Each one reflected a small piece of the world he had touched, a tiny reminder that attention to detail, persistence, and quiet action could truly change lives. And in that reflection, he saw not just himself, but the limitless potential that exists within every person willing to notice, willing to act, and willing to make a difference. The dishwasher who prevented a billion-dollar business collapse had not only saved a company, he had shown the world that greatness is not defined by status, but by courage, insight, and the determination to act when it matters most. And in doing so, Daniel became more than just a hero. He became a legend,